All right, today it's our Unit 8 Study Guide podcast. A lot of the questions on the podcast, on the study guide, I've given you the answers, but I still want to go over them just to make sure you're ready for your test. All right, so the first two questions are about jurisdiction. Original jurisdiction, the first court to hear a case. Appellate jurisdiction is the court that hears it after it was heard by another court. And then let's talk about the different levels of court, maybe give you a better idea about what I mean by that. So, federal court. There are, oops, I made a mistake here on the study guide. Give me 1 second, please. Let's put, all right, sorry about that. So, there's three courts in federal courts. There's the Supreme Court up here at the top, Court of Appeals, U.S. District Court. Let's start at district court level. District court is where most cases start at a federal level. There's a judge, there can be a jury. They have original jurisdiction for cases where you break a federal law. For example, you didn't pay your taxes or you threaten a federal official. And then above the district court, we have the Court of Appeals. There's a judge, there are no juries. And they have appellate jurisdiction. They look at cases that are coming up from the U.S. District Court. Cases never start in the Court of Appeals. Let me say that again. Cases never start in a Court of Appeals. They never have original jurisdiction. You can appeal a case if you're found guilty, if you feel there was, judicial misconduct, you thought the judge was biased, you feel that the jury was unfairly picked, you felt something was wrong with interpretation of the law. So again, federal court, we have district court. Above them, we have the Court of Appeals. And above that, we have the U.S. Supreme Court. There's justices. There are no juries in the Supreme Court. They have appellate jurisdiction. They're the court of final appeal, meaning once the U.S. Supreme Court makes a decision, it cannot be appealed. And they have very limited original jurisdiction. Ambassadors, public ministers, public officials, dispute between states. It's very rare for a case to start in the U.S. Supreme Court. It's a federal court again. Top is Supreme Court, then Court of Appeals, bottom is the U.S. District Court. Let's look at the state of Virginia. All right, so again, you have the you have the Virginia Supreme Court at top. You have a Court of Appeals under that. You have a Circuit Court under that, and you have a General District Court under that. Let's start at the bottom again. U.S. District Court, Domestic Relations Court. There's a judge, there's no jury. Original jurisdiction of misdemeanors and civil cases generally involving lower dollar amounts, so under $25,000. And they have original jurisdiction in juvenile and family cases. Remember that we're talking about things like child custody, adoption, things like that. Above the General District Court, and they have original jurisdiction, as we said. Circuit Court, judge with no jury. Original jurisdiction for felonies and civil cases over $25,000. And they have appellate appeals from District Court. Court of Appeals of Virginia, judges no jury. Appellate jurisdiction, they review the decisions of the Circuit Court. Above the Court of Appeals is the Virginia Supreme Court. Again, justices, no jury. Court of Final Appeal, the only place a case in the Virginia Supreme Court can be appealed to is the U.S. Supreme Court, and it's only in death penalty cases and cases involving the Constitution. And again, they have very limited original jurisdiction. It's usually disputes between counties. So, if you saw a question on your test, which courts have juries? The only ones are the Circuit Court of the state and the District Court of the federal government. Okay? All right, next. What is judicial review? Judicial review is the power granted to the U.S. Supreme Court and the state Supreme Court to determine whether or not laws and acts of the other branches of government, legislative, executive, are constitutional. And they were given that power by the Supreme Court case Marbury v. Madison. Difference between a misdemeanor and a felony. A misdemeanor is a smaller crime. You steal a box of candy bars, you paint, you vandalize your school, something like that. Smaller crimes. Felonies are major crimes. Arson, murder, kidnapping. So felony is a worse crime than a misdemeanor. Steps in a criminal court case. A person accused of a crime is arrested if there's probable cause. Probable cause comes in some different forms. If the police saw you committing a crime, obviously have cause to arrest you, or they've done investigation and they have information showing that you have done the crime. That's also probable cause. Excuse me. They may also arrest you for that reason. After you're accused of a crime, you're either committed to jail or you can be released on bail. Bail is usually set in relation to the crime you've committed. So if you robbed a store, your bail might be a certain amount. But if you murdered someone, your bail might be $1 million. Or if your crime is heinous enough, that you will not be granted bail. After we get arraignment, probable cause is reviewed. If you don't have an attorney yet, one will be appointed, and you can enter a plea. You either enter guilty or not guilty. Guilty means you're admitting to the crime, you feel that there's enough evidence to prove you did it in court, and usually you're sentenced at that time. If you enter not guilty, then a court date is set, a trial is conducted, and then if you're found not guilty, you're free to go. If you're guilty, you may appeal that guilty verdict to, as we set up to the court next up the line. Civil court case, the plaintiff files a complaint to recover damages or receive compensation. Again, usually you hear the word, I'm going to sue you. Cases are heard by either a judge or jury, and cases can be appealed. Due process of the law is the fact that the law applies the same to everyone. Everybody's equal under the eyes of the law. The Fifth Amendment protects you against the federal government, gives you your due process rights. The 14th Amendment gives you your due process rights from the states. All right? That's all I have. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to stop by. Thanks.